Welcome to the deep dive, where we cut through the noise and get right to the good stuff. Today, we're tearing down a big misconception that creativity is some magical bolt of inspiration that only strikes a chosen few.
Right. For centuries, it really felt like that, didn't it? Like some unpredictable muse.
Totally. But modern science, while it tells a much more interesting and, frankly, more accessible story, we're going to unpack the cognitive process of creative thought. I mean, how it actually works, from the ideas in your mind to what's happening in your brain.
Exactly. And the scientific definition is surprisingly, grounded. It's about producing work that is both novel, so original, new, statistically rare,
Okay.
and useful. That useful part is really key, and it means it's appropriate, valuable, solves a problem. It connects the idea to the real world.
So it's practical too, not just wild ideas.
Precisely. And this applies everywhere: arts, sciences, business, engineering, you name it.
So it's definitely not just for the Einsteins and Mozarts of the world then. That's kind of a trap people fall into, thinking it's this exclusive club.
It really is.
Yeah.
The researchers use this thing called the 4C model of creativity, which shows it's more like a spectrum.
A spectrum, how does that work?
Well, at the basic level, you have mini-C creativity. Those are the personal aha moments during learning, like when a tough concept suddenly clicks just for you. It's new to you.
Ah, okay. I get this sometimes. Feels good.
Yeah, and it scales up from there. Next is little c creativity. That's your everyday problem solving.
Like figuring out what to cook with leftovers.
Exactly. Or finding a clever way to organize your desk. It's this vital kind of quiet intelligence we use all the time to navigate daily challenges.
Right. Makes life better. Okay, so what's next?
Then you move up to pro-C creativity. This is professional level stuff.
Yeah.
Think of a skilled architect designing a unique building, or a scientist making a new discovery in their lab.
So experts in their field contributing new, useful ideas?
That's it. And then right at the top, you have big C creativity.
Okay, this must be the Einstein and Mozart level.
Yes, this society-altering historic contributions. But here's the really cool part, the punchline, if you will. The same basic cognitive processes are underneath all these levels.
Really? So my little aha moment isn't fundamentally different from Einstein's?
The underlying mechanisms are shared. It's all built on the same mental machinery. It just means creativity is a universal human thing, just, expressed at different scales.
Wow. That's actually really empowering.
It is.
So what's our mission for this deep dive then?
Well, we're basically deconstructing creativity, looking at the cognitive software and then the neural hardware.
And we'll explore what influences it, right? And hopefully give you some evidence-based ways to cultivate your own creative spark.
That's the plan.
Okay, let's jump in. Where do we start with this cognitive software?
We have to start with the basics, the kind of dynamic duo of creative thought, divergent and convergent thinking. These terms came from J.P. Guilford back in the 50s.
Right, I've heard those terms. Divergent is spreading out.
Yeah, exactly. Divergent thinking is about generating many possible solutions. It's open-ended, exploratory. Think fluency, lots of ideas, flexibility, different types of ideas, and originality, unique ideas.
Like brainstorming, just get everything out there.
Precisely. No judgment, just quantity. It's crucial for those fuzzy, ill-defined problems where the answer isn't obvious.
Okay. And convergent thinking is the opposite.
Pretty much. Convergent thinking is focused, analytical. It's about finding the single best solution. Logic, critical evaluation, precision, like solving a math problem.
Narrowing things down, okay.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. A lot of people think creativity is only divergent thinking, just wild ideas.
Yeah, the thinking outside the box part.
But that's a misconception. Real, valuable creativity needs this harmonious interplay between both. You need divergence to generate the possibilities, but you absolutely need convergence to refine them, evaluate them, pick the best one.
So it's like expanding and contracting.
That's a great analogy, like an accordion. Or breathing in lots of ideas, diverge, and breathing out a focused solution, converge. You need both.
That makes so much sense. It's not just being weird. It's being weird and making it work.
Right.
And this back and forth, this oscillation, it's actually formalized in things like the double diamond model in design thinking, isn't it?
It is. That model explicitly shows the cycles. Discover which is divergent, understand the problem, define convergent, articulate it clearly, develop divergent again, brainstorm solutions, and deliver convergent, refine, and implement.
So it shows creativity as this active, manageable process, not just waiting for lightning to strike.
Exactly. It's a process you can engage in deliberately, and we can even measure these things.
How do you measure something like divergent thinking?
A common way is the unusual uses task. You take an everyday object like a brick or a paperclip and list as many different uses as you can think of.
Ah, okay. And you score based on how many, how varied, how original.
Yep. Fluency, flexibility, originality.
And for digging into how we connect seemingly unrelated ideas, there's the remote associates test, or RAT.
RT, what's that?
They give you three words that seem unrelated, like widow, bite, monkey. And you have to find the single word that connects them all.
Widow, bite, monkey,
Hmm.
spider.
Bingo. It taps into that ability to find hidden connections.
Okay, so divergent and convergent thinking are the engine. But what's the fuel? What raw materials does the brain use?
That brings us to knowledge, memory, and association. Because creative processes don't happen in a vacuum. They need stuff to work with, and that stuff is the information stored in your brain.
Knowledge is the raw material. Makes sense.
And the associative theory of creativity from Sarnoff-Mednick suggests creativity comes from forming new combinations of existing ideas, especially connecting ideas that are conceptually remote or far apart.
Like the camera phone example you mentioned earlier. A phone plus
Oh,
camera.
exactly. Neither was new, but the combination was novel and incredibly useful, connecting distant concepts. And the way our knowledge is structured matters too, right? You mentioned steep versus flat hierarchies.
Yes, Mednick's idea. People with steep hierarchies have strong, predictable associations. Table immediately brings chair to mind. It's efficient for everyday thinking, but maybe less original, like a mental highway.
Okay, predictable.
But creative folks often have flat hierarchies. Their concepts are linked more broadly, with lots of weaker, less obvious connections. This allows for a wider, more flexible search for ideas, more potential paths to explore.
So more chances to connect seemingly unrelated things.
Precisely. And modern network science, using these SEMNet models that map idea connections, actually confirms this. Creative people tend to have richer, more densely connected semantic networks.
So building creativity isn't just about learning facts, it's about building connections between facts.
You got it. Making more potential links. And a powerful way we use these links is through analogical reasoning.
Analogies, right? Seeing how one problem is like another one.
Yeah, it's transferring a pattern or solution from something you know, the source, to a new problem, the target, even if they seem totally different on the surface.
Like that radiation problem
Yeah.
with the tumor in the fortress.
That's the classic example. Hearing about the general dividing his army helps people solve the tumor problem by thinking of multiple weak lasers. It's about seeing the underlying structural similarity, not just superficial features.
Watson and Crick with DNA, that was an analogy too, wasn't it? Using models from crystallography.
Yep, it's an incredibly powerful creative tool. And another tool is mental imagery.
Picturing things in your mind.
Vividly. Creating sensory representations allows you to simulate scenarios, manipulate ideas, try combinations mentally. It's like a virtual workbench in your head.
Okay, so we have the thinking styles, the knowledge network, analogies, imagery. How does it all come together in the actual creative process? Are there models for that?
There are. One of the most famous and enduring is Graham Wallace's four-stage model from way back in 1926.
4 stages, what are they?
First is preparation. This is the conscious hard work part. You immerse yourself in the problem, gather info, define the challenge, focused effort.
Okay, laying the groundwork.
Then comes incubation. This is key. You step away from the problem consciously. Let it simmer.
Like taking a walk or sleeping on it.
Exactly. Your unconscious mind keeps working, forming those new connections in the background. It's not really idle time.
And then,
Then comes illumination. The aha moment. The sudden insight or solution pops into your conscious awareness. Feels like it came from nowhere.
the eureka moment.
Okay. And finally, verification. You take that insight and test it, refine it, elaborate on it, see if it actually works using logic and critical thinking.
Preparation, incubation, illumination, verification. Seems pretty straightforward.
Some people even add a fifth stage. Intimation, that feeling you get just before the aha moment, like the answer is right on the tip of your tongue or brain.
Huh. Interesting. But does it always happen in that neat linear order? Preparation, then incubation?
Great question. That linearity is one criticism, which leads us to a more modern cyclical model, the Geniplor model.
Geniplor, generate and explore.
You got it. Fink, Ward, and Smith proposed this. It sees creativity as this continuous cycle between two phases. First, the generative phase, producing pre-inventive structures.
Pre-inventive structures, like rough ideas.
Exactly. Initial concepts, mental images, maybe vague notions. Then comes the exploratory phase.
Hmm.
Interpreting, testing, refining those structures.
Okay, so generate, then explore. But you said cyclical.
Right. The key insight is that exploration can spark new generation. It's a loop. Exploring an idea might lead you back to generating more different ideas. And it really stresses suspending judgment during generation. Don't shoot down messy ideas too early.
So these models aren't contradictory, maybe just different perspectives.
I think that's fair. They both show creativity is structured, multi-stage, combining different mental operations. Not just random, it's a process, and potentially a trainable one.
Okay, we've covered the cognitive software. Let's get into the hardware. Where does this all happen in the brain? And please tell me it's not just the right brain.
Huh. Yes, let's tackle that myth head on. The whole left brain, right brain thing for creativity is largely debunked.
Really? It's so persistent.
I know. It came from misinterpreting some early split brain research. Modern neuroimaging, fMRI and stuff, consistently shows creativity is a whole brain phenomena. It relies on dynamic communication between networks across both hemispheres. No single creativity spot.
Okay, good to clear that up. So if it's the whole brain, are there key networks involved, like a creative team in there?
That's a good way to put it. Neuroscience points to three major large-scale brain networks as the core team.
The big three.
You could call them that. First, the default mode network, or DMN. Think of this as the imagination network.
Default mode sounds like it's on when nothing else is.
Pretty much. It's most active during awake rest. Mind-wandering, daydreaming, recalling memories, letting thoughts drift. It's the main engine for idea generation, spontaneous thoughts, combining old info in new ways.
So when I'm staring at the window, my DMN is cooking up ideas.
Potentially, yes. And what's fascinating is studies that temporarily disrupt the DMN find it specifically hurts the originality of ideas, not just how many ideas someone has.
Wow. So it's really tied to novelty. Okay, who's next on the team?
Next up is the Executive Control Network, or ECN. This is the evaluation network.
Executive control. Sounds like the boss.
Kind of. It's active during demanding, goal-focused tasks. Planning, working memory, focused attention, decision-making. It helps you concentrate and get things done.
So how does that relate to creativity? Seems almost opposite to the DMN's daydreaming.
It plays the crucial role of idea evaluation. The DMN throws out possibilities, and the ECN steps in to guide, constrain, select, and refine those ideas. It applies the useful filter, quality control.
Okay, so DMN generates, ECN evaluates. Got it. Who's the third member?
The Salience Network, or SN. This one is like the dynamic switchboard.
The switchboard, what does it switch?
Its job is to monitor everything internal thoughts, external stimuli, and flag what's most salient, what's important or relevant right now that deserves attention.
Okay.
In creativity, the SN acts as the crucial link. It detects potentially promising ideas bubbling up from the DMN and flags them for the ECN to take a closer look. It helps orchestrate the collaboration between the DMN and ECN.
That's amazing, because I thought the DMN and ECN were usually like enemies. When one's up, the other's down.
Typically, yes, they have an antagonistic relationship,
Yeah.
which makes the creative brain even more interesting.
So how do creative people get them to cooperate?
That seems to be a key difference. Highly creative individuals show a greater ability to overcome this opposition and get the DMN and ECN to cooperate and synchronize. They're better at making these usually competing networks work together.
It's like they've trained their brains opposing teams to play together nicely.
Something like that. And this suggests it's less about how strong each network is statically and more about the dynamic flexibility of switching between them.
Flexibility in switching.
Yeah. Studies show the frequency of switching between DMN-led generation and ECN-led evaluation actually predicts creative performance. And interestingly, it seems to be specific to creativity, not just general intelligence.
And there's a sweet spot, right? Not too much connection, not too little.
Exactly. Optimal creativity seems to happen at a balanced, moderate level of interaction. Too much integration, maybe you can't generate freely. Too little, maybe you can't evaluate effectively. Finding that balance is key.
This whole neural dance, it sounds like it leads up to that aha moment we talked about.
It does. And neuroscientists have actually found a neural signature for that eureka experience.
What does it look like in the brain?
The main marker is a sudden burst of high-frequency gamma band electrical activity, particularly in the right temporal lobe. And it happens about 300 milliseconds before the solution consciously hits you.
Whoa. My brain knows before I do.
Seems that way. It's like a little electrical announcement. Solution incoming. And there are precursors, too. Increased activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, part of the salience network, may be signaling, I'm stuck, need a breakthrough.
And that brain blank.
Right, a brief burst of alpha waves, often over the visual cortex, suggesting the brain is momentarily tuning out external distractions to focus inward, like closing your mental eyes.
And these moments feel powerful, right? There's an emotional component.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Moments involve the hippocampus, memory, novelty detection, and the amygdala, emotion. This makes the insight feel significant, and it actually helps consolidate the memory. Solutions found via insight are remembered much better and longer than those found through step-by-step analysis.
It feels good, so you remember it.
Pretty much. And it really highlights how Wallace's old stages map onto these network activities. ECN for preparation verification, DMN for incubation, SN and that gamma burst for illumination. It all connects.
Okay, so the brain has this incredible machinery, but it doesn't operate in isolation, right? What influences how well this creative symphony plays?
A great question. Many factors shape it. Let's start with internal stuff, like personality.
Personality, like the big five traits, ocean.
Exactly. Openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism. And the most consistent, powerful predictor of creativity across the board is openness to experience.
That makes intuitive sense. People high in openness are curious, imaginative, unconventional, like learning new things.
Right. They naturally gather more diverse raw material for their DMN to play with, and they're more willing to consider novel outputs from their ECN.
Is it just general openness or are there nuances?
There's a cool nuance. Openness has two aspects. Intellect, engagement with abstract ideas, tends to predict scientific creativity, while the openness facet to self-sensitivity to aesthetics, emotions predicts artistic creativity.
Interesting, so the kind of openness matters. What about the other traits?
Extroversion can correlate positively, especially in collaborative or performance arts. High conscientiousness, being very orderly, and high neuroticism, being prone to anxiety, can sometimes hinder creativity by discouraging spontaneity or risk-taking, but it's not always clear-cut.
Okay, personality plays a role. What about knowledge? We said it's crucial, but can it also get in the way?
Yes, the double-edged sword of expertise. Deep domain knowledge is absolutely essential for high-level creativity. You need the building blocks. But the very knowledge that enables you can also trap you. It can lead to cognitive fixation.
Fixation, like getting stuck in a rut.
Exactly. Like functional fixedness, only seeing a brick as something to build with, not as a potential paperweight or weapon. Or the conformity effect in design experts often stick too closely to existing examples, even when asked to be original.
And confirmation bias, we look for stuff that confirms what we already think.
Right. It actively prevents exploration of truly new paths. Your expertise creates mental tramlines that are hard to jump off.
So how do the most creative experts avoid this?
The key is cognitive flexibility. They have the deep knowledge, but they aren't imprisoned by it.
Yeah.
They stay open, seek different perspectives, actively challenge their own assumptions. It's about knowing the rules so well. You know how and when to break them.
Being an expert who can still think like a beginner sometimes.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, what about mood? Does being happy make you more creative?
It's more nuanced than just happy versus sad.
Yeah.
It seems to be more about activating versus deactivating emotions.
Activating, like high energy.
Yeah, high arousal states. Joy, excitement, even anger or anxiety. These activating moods are generally linked to greater idea fluency and originality, more mental energy.
And deactivating moods like calm or sad.
Tend to be lower arousal, might limit idea generation.
Right.
But there's another layer. Positive affect, like happiness, seems to broaden attention, boost flexibility, good for divergent thinking.
Okay.
While negative affect, surprisingly, can sometimes narrow focus and increase persistence, which might actually help with convergent thinking, like when you need to buckle down and solve a specific problem.
Huh. So different moods might be better for different stages of creativity.
Potentially, yes. And maybe being able to tolerate emotional ambivalence, holding mixed feelings, is also helpful, reflecting a comfort with complexity.
What about motivation? Does wanting fame or money help or hurt?
Intrinsic motivation, doing it because you love it, find it interesting, is a huge predictor of high-quality creative work.
Makes sense.
Extrinsic motivation rewards, like money, grades, fame, can be tricky. Sometimes it undermines intrinsic drive, making it feel like work, which can stifle creativity. That's the over-justification effect.
But not always.
Not always. If the reward confirms your competence or gives you resources to pursue something you're already intrinsically motivated by, it might not hurt or could even help. But relying solely on external rewards is often bad for creativity.
Okay, internal drive is key. Let's zoom out now. What about the environment, the workplace, the culture?
Hugely important. Your creative habitat matters. Especially in teams, psychological safety is paramount.
Feeling safe to speak up, take risks, maybe fail.
Exactly. Without fear of being shut down, ridiculed, or punished. If people are scared, they won't share those half-baked but potentially brilliant ideas.
What else makes a good creative environment?
Clear goals, but also autonomy, freedom in how you reach the goal. Support, resources, time. These are crucial. A balance between collaboration and quiet time for that incubation phase. Even an inspiring workspace helps.
And maybe a sense of playfulness?
Yes, humor can really lower the pressure. And on a broader scale, cultural values matter.
How so?
Different cultures might prioritize different aspects of creativity. Western cultures often emphasize novelty, being radically original. Some Eastern cultures might place more value on usefulness, appropriateness, or fitting within a tradition.
So creative doesn't mean the same thing everywhere.
Not exactly. And related to culture, there's evidence that multicultural experience, actually living and adapting within a different culture, boosts cognitive flexibility.
Really?
It forces you to question assumptions, see things from multiple perspectives, integrate different ways of thinking. It basically rewires your brain to be more flexible and open to novel connections.
Wow. Okay, so we understand the process, the brain networks, the influences. How can we actually use this knowledge? How can you, listening right now, unlock your own creative superpowers?
The great news is creativity isn't fixed. It can be cultivated. It's a skill or a set of skills.
Where should someone start?
One powerful approach is mindfulness and receptive attention. Practices like open monitoring meditation seem to enhance cognitive flexibility, reduce that fixation we talked about, and help manage premature judgment.
And it helps the brain networks cooperate.
Yes, studies suggest it improves the functional connectivity between the DMN, ECN, and SN. It's like tuning up your brain's creative switching ability.
Makes sense. Quieting the inner critic, letting ideas flow. What else?
Embrace strategic incubation. When you're stuck, deliberately step away. Go for a walk, take a shower, do chores, sleep on it. Let your DMN do its unconscious work. Trust the process.
That walk in nature thing actually works.
Research suggests even brief walks, especially in nature, can temporarily boost divergent thinking. So yes, if stuck, move your body.
What about formal training? Do those creativity workshops actually do anything?
They can be effective, yes, especially programs based on solid cognitive models, like the Osborne-Parnes creative problem-solving process, which explicitly teach balancing divergent and convergent thinking stages.
But there's catch.
They often require significant time and effort. And crucially, the skills learned might not stick if you go back to an environment that stifles risk-taking and new ideas. The context matters hugely.
So besides training, how can individuals create a better internal ecosystem for creativity?
First, consciously broaden your knowledge base. Read widely, take classes outside your field, talk to people with different backgrounds and perspectives, build a richer, more diverse semantic network, collect more dots.
More ingredients for the mental kitchen.
Exactly. And second, capture all ideas. Inspiration is slippery. Have a system notebook, app, voice recorder, whatever works for you. Just get those fleeting thoughts down before they vanish.
Don't let the good ones get away.
Right. And third, actively practice cognitive flexibility. Fight fixation. Try imposing creative constraints. Limiting your options sometimes forces novel solutions. And constantly look for analogies. Ask, what is this problem like?
Give your brain puzzles it can't solve the usual way.
Okay.
And for teams or organizations.
Top priority, cultivate psychological safety. Leaders need to model vulnerability, admit mistakes, actively invite dissenting views, make it safe to experiment and fail intelligently.
That sounds hard but crucial.
It is. Also, balance freedom and structure. Give teams clear goals and purpose, but then grant significant autonomy in how they achieve them. Avoid micromanaging the creative process itself.
Let people figure out the path.
And promote diverse collaboration. Build teams with different backgrounds, skills, thinking styles. This helps avoid groupthink. And maybe try brainwriting. Writing ideas down before discussing instead of just verbal brainstorming so quieter voices get heard.
Good tip.
Finally, and this is often overlooked, support the full creative cycle. Recognize that incubation, that seemingly unproductive time, is vital. Provide the time, space, and resources for all stages, not just the execution phase. Value the quiet thinking too.
So, wrapping this all up, this deep dive shows creativity isn't magic at all.
Not at all. It's a complex, dynamic, deeply integrated system. Cognitive processes, brain networks, personality, environment, all working together. It's truly a whole brain activity.
And the core theme seems to be this dynamic balance, right?
Absolutely. Balance between generation and evaluation, DMN and ECN, openness and discipline, knowledge and flexibility, freedom and structure. Mastering that fluid switching seems key for individuals and organizations.
Understanding all this, it kind of demystifies creativity, makes it feel more achievable.
That's the hope. It shifts it from something you just wait for to something you can understand, cultivate, and actively engage in. It puts the power more in your hands.
So the final provocative thought for you, our listener. What does this mean for your potential? Now that you know creativity is this understandable, nurturable process, what assumptions will you challenge? What new connections might you seek?
Yeah, how can understanding this amazing architecture empower you to be a more intentional, more effective innovator in your own life, starting today?